Alright guys, Jameson, Alex here, bringing the next subclass to you. We're talking today about the Blood Hunter subclass of the Order of the Mutant.
Yes.
So this is another one of the unofficial, as the Blood Hunter is featured on D&D Beyond, but it's not been released in any book, so it's kind of in that limbo state between official and unofficial.
Yep.
But it is featured, so it's implemented in D&D Beyond. If you wanted to create a character, you have the ability to add
but the material is there.
Yes. We are doing a giveaway as well, don't forget.
Free stuff.
For the D&D Beyond Players Bundle, so make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below so you'll be entered in that.
Yep.
If you're new to the channel, to the subclass series, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in this subclass, and then rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class abilities.
Indeed.
So, all that being said, we'll jump straight into the abilities. Alex, what do we get with this subclass?
Formulas. Mutagens.
All the formulas.
That's it. That's what the whole thing's about. So starting at 3rd level, you get to choose 4 mutagen formulas. Formula options are detailed down to the bottom, and I'm going to try to do my auctioneering style speed read through some of those. You get additional formula at 7, 11, 15, and 18th level, so a total of 8 of the long list of choices. And also, when you gain a new mutagen formula, you can choose one of the formulas you already know and replace it. So when you hit 7, if you got one you picked at 3 that you never used, or you used it once, it's like, I just wasn't as impactful as I thought it was going to be, you can delete that one and replace it with something else every time you get one a new choice.
Yes.
And then, again, the whole thing, the mutagens, the mutagen craft. You concoct a single mutagen when you finish a short or long rest. Starting at 7, it becomes to 2. At 15, you get 3. So you're going to know X number, but you can only create so many per rest.
Right.
Think like clerics and druids know all their spells. They can only prepare so many every day. Same concept. But this is every short rest.
Yeah, it's kind of like a warlock almost.
Pretty much.
But,
as a bonus action, you can consume a single mutagen, and the effects and side effects, that's important, last until you finish a short or long rest unless otherwise specified. While one or more mutagens are affecting you, you can use an action to focus and flush the toxins from your system, ending the effects and side effects of all mutagens. They're designed for your biology and have no effect on other creatures. They are also unstable by nature, losing their potency over time and becoming inert if not used before you finish your next short or long rest.
Right, so essentially you can't just stockpile a bunch of these mutagens and just have them on you all the time to choose from.
Yeah.
Then at level 7, we get Strange Metabolism. Your body begins to adapt to the toxins and venoms, and ignoring their corroding effects. You gain immunity to poison damage and the poison condition. In addition, you can instill a burst of adrenaline to temporarily resist the negative effects of a mutagen. As a bonus action, you can choose to ignore the side effects of the mutagen affecting you for 1 minute. Once you use this effect to resist the side effects, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. So once we get to the actual mutagens, you'll see why it's important to be able to do this sometimes, because some of these side effects are pretty brutal.
Yes.
And then at level 11, we have the Brand of Axiom. Any illusions disguising or making a creature invisible when you brand them end, and they can't benefit from such illusions while branded. If a creature branded by you is polymorphed or has changed shape, they must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or revert to their true form and be stunned until the end of your next turn. Whenever a branded creature attempts to polymorph or change shape, they must succeed a wisdom saving throw or the attempt fails, and they are stunned until the end of your next turn. So, yeah, for things that shape change and polymorph, you're going to be keeping them locked down. So that is definitely nice, but very niche on that side of things. Then at level 15, we get the Blood Curse of Corrosion, as all of these subclasses do get a special Blood Maledict feature. With this one on here, essentially what you're going to do is, as a bonus action, you take a creature within 30 feet of you, and it becomes poisoned.
Straight up.
Cool.
No save, no nothing. They just get poisoned.
Yes. At the end of each of their turns, the target can make a con save. On success, the curse ends. So, they do get the ability to keep trying.
Right, they can try to get rid of it after it happens.
It's basically the one turn they get the poison condition.
For sure.
And then after that, you get the extra. And then amplifying it, the creature suffers 4d6 necrotic damage and suffers the damage again every time it fails the con save to end the curse at the end of its turn. So yeah, if they have a really low con, you're going to be taking that 4d6 every turn, essentially.
That's fun.
So that is interesting for sure on there. And then lastly, at level 18, we have the Exalted Mutation. As a bonus action, you can choose one mutagen currently affecting you to flush from your system and end, then immediately have a mutagen you know the formula for take effect in its place. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, regaining all uses when you finish a long rest. So essentially, you can swap them while they're active on you. So you're going to have access to basically all of the ones you know all the time. Even though you can only create so many per short rest, you can swap them out for other ones you know while they're affected on you. So then, the actual breakdown of the mutagens, Alex is going to try to run through these. Most of them are pretty straightforward, but there are quite a lot of them. And
20 to be exact.
Are some side effects on here for this as well.
And that's the important thing is every time you have one of these active, the side effect is also going to be active at the same time unless you use your ability you have at level 7 to ignore the side effects of one mutagen.
Yeah, for 1 minute.
For 1 minute.
Yes.
So that's important. So some of these you're going to hear like, holy cow, that's busted, until you hear like how much it's going to be poking you in the side for what it does. Aether requires level 11, gain a flying speed of 20 feet for 1 hour. Side effect, disadvantage on strength and dexterity ability checks for 1 hour. Not saving throws, ability checks. Saving throws is coming later.
Yeah.
Alluring, your skin and voice become malleable, allowing you to slightly change your appearance and presence. You have advantage on charisma ability checks. Side effect, you disadvantage on initiative rolls. So great for RP, terrible for combat. Celerity, your dexterity score increases by 3, as does your maximum. That's fun. This bonus increases by 1 at level 11 and again at the 18th level. So that's going to cap out at 5. So technically you can get up to a dexterity of 25. Side effect, disadvantage on wisdom saving throws. Yeah. You're going to pay for that. Conversant, you have advantage on intelligence ability checks and the disadvantage on wisdom ability checks. The side effect makes sense. Cruelty requires level 11. When you use the attack action, you make an additional weapon attack as a bonus action. Side effect.
Yikes.
You have disadvantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Be wary of using that.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there. Deafness. You have advantage on dexterity ability checks. Side effect, disadvantage on wisdom ability checks. Embers, resistance to fire damage, vulnerable to cold damage. Gelid, resistant to cold damage, vulnerable to fire damage. Oh, that makes sense. Impermeable, resistance to piercing damage, vulnerable to slashing damage. Mobility, immunity to the grappled and restrained conditions. At level 11, you are also immune to the paralyzed condition. I really love that mutagen. Yes. You have a disadvantage on strength ability checks. I really don't care.
Right.
To me, that's probably the one that you get the most without the least amount of sacrifice, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Night Eye, you gain dark vision for up to 60 feet. If you already have dark vision, its range increases by 60 feet.
But
gain sunlight sensitivity.
No, thank you.
No, don't like it. Percipient, you gain advantage on wisdom ability checks. You have disadvantage on charisma ability checks. Potency, your strength score increases by 3, just like the other one from earlier, as does your maximum. Bonus increases by 1 at 11 and at 18. You have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. AoE magic. Precision, your weapon attacks score critical hit on a d20 roll of 19 or 20, a la champion fighter. You have disadvantage on strength saving throws. Rapidity, your strength increases by 10 feet. At 15th level, increases by 15 feet. Instead, you have disadvantage on intelligence ability checks. That's not really a bad sacrifice either.
Not too many of those.
Because movement doesn't matter as much, intelligence check doesn't really matter in combat as much,
Yeah, ability checks.
Where your movement's going to matter. Yeah. Reconstruction, for 1 hour at the start of each of your turns, you regain hit points equal to your proficiency bonus if you have at least 1 hit point, but no more than half of your hit points. Your speed decreases by 10 feet for 1 hour, so you're slower, but you're tankier. So
yeah, only when you're below half health though. So lots of asterisks.
Yeah. Sagacity, your intelligence saving throws, intelligence score increases by 3, as is your intelligence maximum, just like the strength and dexterity one before. Increases by 1 at 11 and 1 again at 18. Disadvantage on charisma saving throws. Shielded, resistance to slashing damage, vulnerability to bludgeoning damage, unbreakable, resistance to bludgeoning damage, vulnerability to piercing damage. So those 3 are in a nice little triangle.
Yep.
And finally, we have Vermilion. You gain additional use of your blood maledict feature. Disadvantage on death saving throws.
Yeah.
So there's 20 of them. Some of them are very potent with very vicious side effects. Some of them are helpful, more utility buff, but not as severe side effects.
Right.
So total, if you go all the way to level 18, you will get to choose 8 of these to know, and you can prepare up to 3 of them per short rest. But again, with your capstone ability, you can kind of
swap them out. Yeah.
Do little swap skis several times during the day because it's equal to your intelligence modifier use. So.
Yes. So, those are all of the abilities and features of the base subclass. So we'll jump into the rating portion. First up is the roleplay value asterisk. As always, when talking about roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background that's on you as a player. Can't rate you as a player, but we can rate the abilities gained in this subclass and how they might improve the base class in those roleplay scenarios.
Indeed.
So, all that being said, looking at the features on here, with the mutagens, you have lots of options for RP. The only thing with that is you're limited to the number of choices you get.
Yes.
So you're going to have to, if you want to pick a bunch of RP stuff, you're going to be sacrificing some combat. So you're going to have to decide, maybe you try to pick some of the more gray area ones, like maybe movement speed or flying speed that could be used in RP or combat. Give you some more versatility. So that's something to keep in mind. There are a lot of uses on here. The brand of Axiom, when you're dealing with illusions or creatures that polymorph or shape changers, things like that, could come into play on the RP side, though it is more on the niche side. And then, of course, poison damage and poison condition has some niche uses sometimes in RP as well. With the Blood Curse of Corrosion, I mean, you could maybe find a very niche use to get a Blood Mallet to give someone poison condition.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's not going to probably come up too often. And then the Exalted Mutation, being able to swap them for when you need, that's when you could really pull in the RP stuff when you need it, or vice versa, get rid of the RP for combat when you need it in combat. So that's nice to have that as well. Overall, there's a decent mix of options available. As Alex said, there's 20 different ones to choose from, and you're only going to give it a little bit less than half of those total, so keep that in mind. But we went with a 4 on the roleplay value just because of the utility and versatility options available. There are tons. If you wanted to go full dive deep into RP and take all RP ones, you could do that.
The RP score will probably go up a little bit higher, too.
Right. You're going to be giving up some combat stuff.
Right.
But you have your Blood Maledics in the base class, so there's that as well.
For a base class that is more on the complicated side, this subclass really is pretty straightforward. It's just learning what all the different mutagens do, but none of them are really that complicated. It's movement speed, fly, damage resistances, extra attack, advantage on this and disadvantage on this. Nothing that you wouldn't see in general combat use anyway. It's nothing wild or crazy, anything like that. And on the combat side, there's kind of this push and pull operation. Yes, the old dichotomy with RP is, like Jameson said, if you really want to go heavier on the combat side, you can. And you can get extra attacks. You can raise your primary attacking stat, whether you want to go dex or strength, and raise it all the way up to 25 and be in there bashing people's faces in or shooting them from ways away. But you're going to have disadvantage on some saving throws. And because of the severe penalties, some of the best combat ones, it's kind of, there's some risk reward. You're really going to play this kind of more as a berserker type if you use a lot of the combat ones. So because of the penalties that you get between those, we went with a 3.5 on the combat side. So you do get immunity to poison damage and the poison conditions, which is always a good thing to have.
Right.
And like Jameson said, with the capstone, being able to swap out one, right there on the spot can be really helpful if you spend a use on a couple of RP ones because you've really needed the advantage on the intelligence ability checks, to figure out what these magic items are, doing some arcana checks, stuff like that. And then now all of a sudden you've been caught trying to steal something, this artifact, and now it's all of a sudden you're combat. Like, oh crap, I've got 2 mutagens active and neither one of them are combat help.
Right.
So that's that, being able to get those out, and of course the Blood Curse of Corrosion, being able to give somebody else the poison condition at least for the one turn without the save, and then force them to try to save it and amplify it for free extra damage. Also, not a bad choice, to say the least.
Yeah, so definitely the biggest detriment on here, obviously, are the side effects.
Yes.
Just because they are pretty hefty for some of them. Now, I would say the only thing to keep in mind is if you are able to plan combats ahead, if you're able to do that, this is going to be actually pretty strong in combat. It'll be actually better than 3.5.
Yes.
The problem is, if, like Alex said, if you're ambushed or combat pops out and you weren't anticipating, say you took the extra attack with the bonus action because you were planning to fight a monster that doesn't have casting, you don't care about the
intelligence saving throws
on there. So you take that one, but then you get ambushed by a wizard or something, you're going to be in the hot seat.
Yes, you're going to be in trouble.
Yes, you can end it if you want to, but then you've lost out on one of your 3 mutagens that you get to have. So if that happens, you can end it. You have the ability to, but you're not going to be able to get it back until you take a short rest. So something to keep in mind, that the risk factor on there is what toned us down. It's like it could definitely be very good.
Like all these stats could be higher, but the side effect, and there's the reason why the side effects exist is because of that. Because there's definitely a lot of give and take here, which is interesting, which does make this stand out because there is a lot of give and take. And like I said, if you're able to like work with your DM and it kind of explains like, hey, I've kind of got this, and work with having conversation. How is there a way we can be able to try to figure out and do some combat planning? And I'm sure a lot of DMs will help you, give you some leeway on some stuff. If you make the right effort, ask the right people that may have some extra knowledge, it may give you enough to know at least one of the mutagens you might want to plan on, or primarily whether to take that one or not. So that might be the biggest thing to help you out.
Yeah, so then lastly, we have the overall class synergy, and with the base class of the Blood Hunter, the main things to work with on here is going to be your primal rights, where you're getting the extra damage types and things like that for your attacks. You have your Blood Maledict, just special ability features that can do a wide variety of things.
Indeed.
And then, of course, you have your brand.
Yes.
Which every subclass gets some kind of way to buff that as well. So looking at the options on here, there are a lot of definitely interesting options and combinations of ways to work with the stuff you have on the base class. Like, for example, the brand synergy is pretty nice when it does work with shape changers and things like that. Though, how often are you going to come into those? Depends on the campaign. Depends on a lot of things on there. The Vermilion mutagen is actually pretty nice to have for the flexibility if you needed to have extra Blood Maledicts.
Especially when you can change it.
Exactly. Especially once you get higher level and you can just drop something you have, like a +3 to your, well, at that point it would be +5 to your intelligence or whatever, to get a mutagen. And me and Alex kind of talked about this. I think it's broken. I don't think this was intended, but it says that you can use the number of times to swap your mutagens equal to your intelligence modifier. Here's the issue. If you had like a 15 intelligence per se, and then at 18 you take the mutagen that gives you +5, you now have a 20 intelligence, right? So you could do it 5 times.
Okay.
So you can swap it out.
5 times.
So you could swap it 4 times, and then on the 5th time,
I got 1 left.
You swap out the one that's the intelligence for something else.
Bingo.
And then you don't care about the intelligence modifier anymore. So I don't think that was intended.
Not as much. I mean, your Blood Maledict's saving throws still based on your intelligence, so you would be losing out on something. But yeah, that is kind of a cheeky way.
Yeah, that's a nice little combo. I think that's kind of just a cool way to point out some ways to kind of work around with mutagens, try to combo them. So that's definitely interesting for sure on there. But the ability to pull up those extra Blood Maledicts can definitely come in play when paired with your capstone for some clutch Blood Maledicts if needed.
Indeed.
So I really like that feature. So we went with a 4 on the synergy side. So a pretty solid score across the board. It's actually very strange to try to rate because, like I said, if you're able to plan ahead, it's going to be better because then you're not going to be taking detriments that are going to be as detrimental.
You're going to feel them as much,
So it has potential to be very, very strong, but there's a very high risk factor in there as well. That you
especially on the most potent ones.
Right. The mutagens you take could just become mute if you're forced to have to end the effects of them. So something to keep in mind. Definitely very interesting, very flavorful.
Yes.
And the most Witcher, classic Witcher.
And also with the terms of the different scoring could change depending on how you want to build in order to Mutant Blood Hunter. Because you can build it super RP for an RP heavy campaign, or you can build it more combat if you really want to commit to being I'll take all the risks. I'm a lucky person and I'm going to go for it.
Definitely have the option.
So there's some flexibility on the scoring tube and how you want to build it.
So that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. We got one more Blood Hunter subclass that we'll be doing. So stay tuned to that. Make sure you check out the Blood Hunter class video we did as well.
So you understand what snot we're talking about.
Going on, or as a refresher.
Yes.
So that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications. All of our new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.